All right, it is SNL. Texans going to be on the field tomorrow. We come to you with some breaking news, as well as laying out the position battles, as well as the best Cacerio pivots, which I think is one of his best super skills, the ability to make do with plan B. Landry Locker, Cody Stutes with you. The breaking news, Cody, the Texans will have a joint practice with the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, Dave Canales announced this at his OTAs with the Panthers, but when you put the clues together a couple of weeks ago, it was either going to be the Panthers in Houston or the Lions in Detroit for joint practices because the Vikings already signed up for a joint practice, and that's who the Texans' first preseason game is against. This is a pretty decent team to come to town and have a joint practice against because I would think most of us view the Texans, I know what happened a couple of years ago, but most of us view the Texans as a much better overall team than the Carolina Panthers right now. And if you're feeling like, hey, I get some mojo going there in the middle of training camp, a lesser team coming to town and not putting it on you, kind of like the Rams defense did last year, that feels a little bit better than somebody coming in there and really smacking you around like it felt like the Rams kind of did a little bit.
Yeah, and coaches enjoy joint practices more than games. I think it's a good opportunity to work on everything. It's actually probably a little bit more it's more reps for your starters as well, but they're not, they're going full speed, but they're not. So I think it'll be cool. I always enjoy joint practices. I think they can get a little bit intense. Automatically your eyes look at Bryce and CJ. Yeah, that's been kind of the conversation. Want to see what McMillan looks like in person. Kind of intrigued by that. And then some other things to
if he shows up, we don't know if he even loves football enough to make the trip for a joint practice.
We're bringing up old stuff.
Another aspect that like D'Amico Ryans will talk about this 500 times as the joint practice gets closer. They love being able to drill specific situations too. So you get a lot of 2-minute reps with ones on ones, twos on twos. You get a lot of red zone reps, ones on ones, twos on twos. So that'll be good. I hope it's more than one day. Sometimes it feels like maybe they're just content to do one day, but I hope it's more than one day.
I bet it'll be a couple days, and it should be fun. That's always one of the most fun times to cover the squad and camp and everything like that. And I very much look forward to it.
Hey, and by the way, interior offensive line, if you ain't ready for Derek Brown, somebody's going to get embarrassed. Somebody's going to get embarrassed.
On the super chat, David White says, nobody wants to see baby Bryce besides you, Landry.
You ain't never had
baby Bryce.
Yeah. No, I like Bryce. I'm a Bryce guy. I'm a big Bryce fan. It's unfortunate he hasn't had the surroundings yet, but I like Bryce. I like CJ too. I think the Texans did just fine in that area, but I'm still intrigued to see how Bryce looks.
A lot closer after year 2 than it was after year 1.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how he looks with that, and I look forward to seeing how CJ handles his business in a very, very massive year 3.
Oh, yeah.
Which brings me to I have 5 position battles.
Okay.
Very early. But I have 5 position battles. And there's even more. You've added a bonus, so we'll go with 6 position battles. I got to start with, as the Texans will be on the field tomorrow, the offensive tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Are we looking at 2 tackle battles? Are you ready to, in wake of all this Ursary news and how much they liked him, are you ready to say that Cam Robinson could perhaps be the most expensive swing tackle in football?
Am I ready to say that? No. Is it certainly on the table? Yes, it is certainly on the table. I hope we're looking at 2 tackle battles. Nothing that Cam Robinson has done in his NFL career has guaranteed him the left tackle spot. Does he start with a little bit of a lead because you paid him $12 million? Sure. And then nothing Blake Fisher did last year should guarantee him the right tackle spot. And we know they love them some Mariante Ursary. So give him an opportunity. A year ago, they trusted Kamari Lassiter to step on the field and be cornerback 2. and not, be pigeonholed into, well, he needs to be a slot cornerback. They trusted Kamari Lassiter right away to be on the field and go outside and start opposite Derek Stingley. Give Ariante Ursary that opportunity as well. They let him go out there and try to supplant Cam Robinson or Blake Fisher at one of those tackle spots. And OTA's minicamp, it's tough for linemen, but you can start to showcase it between the ears, how well you're picking up the new offense. It's a new offense for everybody. It's not like anybody's got an inherent advantage over somebody else when it comes to learning this offense. So what have you done between the ears? Have you picked it up? And yeah, this should be wide open competition. If you're going to preach competition, make it be real competition.
I would disagree with you when you say that nobody has the edge. And I'm getting semantic because I get the overall premise of what you're saying, but I would actually say Ariante Ursary has the edge over everybody else on the offensive line when it comes to how this organization and specifically how this new offensive coordinator and how this new offensive line coach look at him, because he's one of the few guys that they brought in that has long-term sustainability. And if maybe he's a notch or two below Cam Robinson on the short term, I think that there's going to be, much like we see general managers, coaches lean with guys that they're invested in, assuming that Kaylee and Popovich are the guys making these calls. I actually think that he actually does have a nod over all these other guys to the point where even if it means going through some growing pains and not being as prepared as Cam Robinson immediately, I could easily see Ursary getting the nod.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he's close to Cam Robinson from a performance standpoint, just start him instead. Screw Cam Robinson. I mean, he's here for 1 year. Who cares? Get Ursary's tenure as the star left tackle, hopefully for this team, started.
Then we have the interior offensive line. I don't think you can really give anyone the upper nudge in any of these. Like this is sad. It's actually it's cool.
It's a butter knife fight.
It's cool to cover, but it's pathetic. Like when you look at just how uncertain it is, and it's not, the tackles aren't much behind, but like, I mean, you're looking at Juice Scruggs, Jared Patterson, perhaps at center, Laken Tomlinson and Ingram and Titus Howard and
say his name, Landry. Say his name. The offseason superstar. Say his name. Ladarius Henderson.
At guard. It's a rough look when it comes to the interior offensive line, but I guess it makes it fun to watch. But there's zero like pound the table for this guy type of guys there. It's rough.
Yeah, coaching and competition is what they deemed more important than talent on the interior offensive line. There's at least some investment in talent at tackle. You got a couple of second-round picks. You've got a $12 million free agent. But on the interior, competition and coaching. That's what they decided was important. They did not add a tremendous amount of talent to the interior. They've got some guys that have played a lot of football. They've got some guys that have played a little bit of football. And they've got some guys that have barely played. And it feels like they're just going to throw them all in there, and whoever comes out on top, so be it. That's who's going to start as the interior offensive lineman. And then there should be some – I would wonder if there's even constant competition like a few weeks into the season. If this guy's not getting it done, okay, swap them out because they're all just kind of in the same range. There's no massive investment or attachment. There's no tether to any of these interior offensive linemen. So just because you win the job initially doesn't mean you're secure you're going to keep it, but they're going to have a bunch of different options. I'm assuming there's a lot of mixing and matching and figuring out who's going to play where. And do you trust guys who've played a lot of football but haven't been very good? Do you trust guys who haven't played a lot of football and we have no idea how good they are? There's a lot to answer on that interior offensive line. Far more questions there than the tackles.
Yeah, hell of a lot of questions there on the chat. Shout out to Austin Jack.
Good to see you, my friend.
Swarm.
Good afternoon, mi amigo. Steverino says it's not nefarious to talk Ladarius. It's a very nice rhyme.
That's good. I like that. I feel like we as a society don't use the word nefarious enough.
It's impressive right there. Patrick Dean says goodbye, Refrigerator Perry.
You have no idea where I'm broadcasting from. I could be broadcasting anywhere in the world right now.
By the way, I was going through Netflix and they actually had they had the option of watching your new show that you've put together the last few days. And this was the pick up there of it right there. Look at that.
This is the most low budget cartoon shit I've ever seen in my life.
It's a low budget, man. Look at Cal.
I love that Cal. He's prank calling me. He's prank calling me. I wasn't ready for this. Oh, that's well played. Well, then you better go catch it.
You better go catch the fridge. You think Cal was a prank caller? Probably.
Could I? Yeah, I mean,
yeah, everybody.
kick back a couple of brewskis.
Everybody.
And then get on the. I mean, can you imagine getting a prank call from Cal McNair?
No.
You probably start giggling on the other end of the phone, knowing it's a prank call.
So next battle, we have RB2.
This could or could not be important depending on if Joe Mixon has a foot or not. Aaron Wilson, it's reporting that Joe Mixon's a pirate, but maybe he's not a pirate.
So will we see Joe tomorrow?
Well, if we don't, I know what I'm going to ask D'Amico Ryans. So Joe Mixon wasn't there. Is that injury related, or is he just exercising the voluntary aspect of it?
Joe's day to day.
Aren't we all, Coach? Aren't we all?
Yeah, the RB. So Woody Marks is going to be the popular choice here. There's still a small portion of Dameon Pierce hope. It's the same old there. And then I think Agumbawale, God bless him for doing everything he's done, but I mean, if this is the mix, he's got a chance. I mean, they haven't done anything massively that you can just 100% set in stone and say he's back. But I mean, if we're talking the RB2 battle and it's the same exact guys as last year, and we acknowledge that Agumbawale is the guy that they praise and like the most, and we don't know what Woody Marks is going to be or what role they're going to have for him, like Dare Agumbawale is in this race with Dameon Pierce, with Woody Marks, and then just a cluster of guys after that.
Well, and the special teams usefulness that Agumbawale has too, we know that can be a plus in the positives column for various players when you're deciding this guy versus that guy. And I mean, look, this is set up. If Woody Marks is better than I believe he is, this is set up for him to easily be running back too. Easily. But I don't believe there's a lot of resistance if he's better than I think he is. But if he's about as good as I anticipate him to be, then he's a pretty solid running back 3 option. He'll do some third down back stuff, especially if he can create and build some of that trust and some of the pass blocking that they're going to ask that third down running back to do. And then he could be the running back 3, and then RB2 is wide open with a number of really unimpressive options.
Then we have wide receiver. I put wide receiver 6 because I feel like 5 have it on lock. And we've talked about this. We're doing position battles before the Texans hit the field tomorrow here on SNL. I mean, I think Watson's safe the way that D'Amico has spoken on him. And then you have the 2 rookies. You have Christian Kirk and you have Nico Collins. That's 5. So
there's 5.
Wide receiver 6 is the battle. I wonder what odds I could get where Don Mechie's practicing in the previously mentioned joint practice, but he's wearing teal instead of battle red. I'm serious.
No, hold on. He practices the first day in a Texans uniform, and then joint practices day 2, he's in a Panthers uniform.
Yeah, I mean, like
they just leave Houston with him.
Yeah, it seems like, that would be a team that would maybe be willing to kick the tires on a guy who has chemistry with your quarterback. And Adam Thielen's not getting any younger. He's still there. Yeah, I think he's probably like 68 and he's still playing. But
yeah.
I think like I could easily see a situation, and they've spoken very highly of Hutchinson as well. And he's only in year 3 instead of year 4, like Mechie. I could easily see a scenario where Mechie's not even at camp with the Texans, or he's at this joint practice, but he's a member of the Carolina Panthers.
I mean, you look at they're signing Hunter Renfrew front row, who hadn't played football in a couple of years, and bringing him into the equation. Like they could use some options, some bodies in that wide receiver room in Carolina. Obviously, the relationship with Bryce Young is a big positive for him. As much as this is figuring out who the 6th wide receiver is, and maybe if they're going to take a 7th, I really think it's kind of figuring out how does 2 through 6 really stack up. Again, I go back to the Kamari Lassiter example from a year ago. They trusted him right off the bat. Could they trust Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel right off the bat a little bit more or as much as Christian Kirk and Justin Watson? It's not totally out of the question.
I don't think it's like the most far-fetched thing to say that Jalen Noel is already better than Christian Kirk. I don't think it's crazy.
I would say it's a tougher, like Kamari Lassiter had to beat out Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson.
Yeah.
It's like the opponent's tougher. Like Christian Kirk is a tougher opponent for the rookies to beat out than what Kamari Lassiter had to beat out. But if Higgins is showcasing a lot and you can, put him in the slot sometimes, if Noel's out there and he's turning the speed up on people and he's able to present an element that none of these other wide receivers truly give you, like play him. Like you're sure Christian Kirk has NFL experience, but again, everybody's really starting from ground zero on this offense. Pick it up, and if you're more physically gifted and you can stay healthy, play the rookies. I'm fine with that.
Crazier things have happened than a 2nd-round slot receiver coming in and just completely wrecking shop. It's one of those things where sometimes you get pigeonholed and it's looked at as almost like a weakness because this guy can only do this, but there's some value. Like the biggest steals that we've seen, like in the NFL, it feels like at the wide receiver position, there's a lot of exceptions. A lot of times they're slot guys who just get completely pigeonholed. Now, a lot of those guys are usually slow. And the speed.
No, not slow.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like they almost get like looked over and glossed over. And we saw it with Puka. We saw it with Kupp before that. We always bring up Wes Welker. We bring up Edelman. Kirk even slid down. Like it's not often. Hell, Jefferson slid down to the 20s because people thought he was just a slot guy, which looks just really stupid now, especially with, Rager and some of the receivers going ahead of him. But a lot of times, like when you get the steal, it's because teams just assume, well, this guy can only work in the slot. I think in Nick Caley's offense, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that crazier things have happened than Noel going out there and just making an immediate impact.
Well, there's so many day 2 guys that have been able to go out there and showcase right away. And certainly even in that roughly that range where Noel went, like you think about DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Scary Terry, like there've been so many different guys.
AJ
Brown. Yeah. 50 to 80 to 90 is there's been so many wide receivers that have showcased stuff right away in that range that it does get you a little excited when we thought highly of Noel. He drops. They still grab him. And I don't want to speak for you, but I'd have been pretty comfortable with him if they'd picked him at 48 instead of Ursery, or maybe even 34. I liked Higgins more, but it wouldn't have been the craziest thing in the world. Obviously, we know now that the league didn't like him as much as we did, but that's fine. The league's been wrong before, and I feel like they got this one wrong, and the Texans got it right, drafted him.
Next battle, and I don't know if this is going to be a direct battle. I don't know if this is going to be – there's multiple layers to this, but Christian Harris versus Henry To'oTo'o. To'oTo'o did a nice job filling in last year. We saw Harris come back, but they weren't playing him really over Henry To'oTo'o. Don't know whether he was ready or not. But I think it's just really going to be interesting. And you could rephrase this as just D'Amico's linebacker rotation. and you can factor in what they're going to do with Petrie, which I think we assume he's going to play the largest majority of the snaps like he did last year. But how Christian Harris playing time looks in relation, assuming that he's able to play in relation to Henry To'oTo'o, I think that's an interesting little matchup / nugget as well as we head into on-field activity.
I wonder too, a healthy Christian Harris, would they put him on the field? And obviously they've got a healthy Petrie now, so maybe it's like if they had a healthy Christian Harris, I don't know if the outcome's different, but I got to imagine a healthy Christian Harris is the one trying to chase down Travis Kelce and not Azeez Al-Shire. So are there situations, are there snaps where Harris's athleticism and maybe some of his ability to go out there and cover a little bit, is that more attractive to have on the field than Azeez or Henry or one of the other linebackers? Healthy Harris, I have no idea what to make of him because, you look back to the end of 2023, he came on really strong there. Basically from the Tampa game on, he played really good football, and then he just didn't even get to really play last year. Never got going because of the injury. So it's tough to make a lot of him, but it's tough to just ignore him when he was successful down the stretch as he was in 2023.
Yeah, I want to see how he fits in and if he's out there. I got to assume we're going to see him out there, right? Like right off the top.
My God, is there another mystery injury we don't know about?
And I don't know. We will be keeping an eye on all that tomorrow. We'll be live after practice right here at 4, so be sure to set the reminder, et cetera. This was a bonus one that you brought up, Jalen Petrie's backup.
This one to me is it could get answered in two ways. It's a backup for emergency only, or it's a backup because they're going to play a different guy when it's a clear coverage situation. Petrie didn't cover well last year. Now, around the line of scrimmage, getting in there, sticking his nose in the run game, he played well. But he didn't cover well from that spot. So Petrie's backup, is he going to be in there to take coverage snaps off of Petrie's plate? Or is he only a backup because we know that Jalen Petrie didn't finish the year healthy playing that position, and that guy's just got to be ready to take over the full load if Petrie can't go? Because I don't think it's out of the question that they would just take Petrie off the field in clear coverage situations and let someone else go play coverage snaps.
No, and I think I think that we've kind of seen the evolution of this becoming kind of an important position just based on what they did at the start of last year when it initially looked like it was kind of an adjustment to Harris being out, to how much they invested in Petrie, to the fact that they're bringing back Jimmy Ward, and they got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CJ Gardner-Johnson, whatever you want to call him, and they drafted Jalen Reed. I feel like this is a position now that is not just an adjustment. I think it's a part of this defense where you have a lot of guys capable of being able to play it. And oh, by the way, you just mentioned Travis Kelce, the one time he didn't look washed last year against the Texans. They didn't have anyone capable of doing that last year,
right?
As a result of the Petrie and Jimmy Ward injuries. So I think that this is going to be, this is a position on this defense now. Like, I don't think it's like an adjustment. I think this is a position that they're invested in with veterans and with rookies. And yep. I saw what Jalen Reed did in practice. Like, it was the Jalen Petrie practice. Small sample size, but it was exactly the routine that Jalen Petrie would go through when the Texans would be doing such things. And I anticipate when we see those two on the field at the same time that Reed is basically kind of like Jalen Petrie's shadow. Yep. So I think it's a role.
Well, and established. Jalen Smith was a slot cornerback at USC a couple of different times. And he played inside and outside for the Trojans. So is he an option in some of the coverage stuff? Is Reed maybe more the line of scrimmage stuff for Petrie? Could Smith come in for coverage? Miles Bryant's back on this team. Jimmy Ward's still on this team. They just put Jimmy Ward in there in a clear coverage situation, let him cover, takes away some of the wear and tear of the position from Jimmy that he didn't love playing. And it's just a little bit more coverage stuff, less line of scrimmage stuff. Like, I know they paid Petrie a lot of money. Just because you paid him a lot of money doesn't mean you should just only play him at that position when you have options.
Yep. Kind of a little bit of a little bit of a platoon, perhaps. So those are the position battles that we will be keeping an eye on. Tomorrow, we'll let you know what we see. We'll definitely have observations for you. Don't let anyone minimize it and say they're not doing much. Pivots. Nick Cacerio pivots. We talked about the report that the Texans tried to trade up for Ursery. The trade fell through, and they were able to still get Ursery and Knoll at the same time. In the spirit of that, Cody Stutes has Nick Caserio's best and worst pivots. Let's start with the best. Good news first.
Well, to me, one of his best pivots was Danielle Hunter. They were chasing Eric Armstead, defensive tackle that had played for D'Amico Ryans in San Francisco. They ultimately didn't get Armstead. The Jaguars signed him. He was not an impact player for them, and they repurposed that big contract that they were perhaps setting aside for Armstead. They turned it into Danielle Hunter, and that's been a pretty solid investment for them. Now they went ahead and invested a lot more into it this offseason, making him one of the highest paid defensive players in all of football. But that pivot from Armstead to Danielle Hunter, I mean, plan B ended up being way better than plan A ever could have been. So I think, to me, that's one of the best pivots that he's had in his time.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would say that's one of the better pivots for sure. I think that Deshaun is the one that is 100% the best, and that there was stuff that he couldn't control it. I mean, because of the way the contract was laid out, he could not control it. But I think that would be the number one for sure.
Well, and he took the job, I'm assuming, expecting to be able to put together a team around Deshaun Watson. And then his first few days on the job, he's like, oh, what did I get into? And then he's got to basically pivot from that. And I know that Watson sort of controlled the process, but within the control that Watson had, Cacerio even implemented some of his own control with basically you got to pay the fee to get in the club and even talk about it. So that's you're right. That's his best pivot from I'm going to build a team around Deshaun Watson to holy crap, I got to trade this guy. Like, not fun.
Not ideal.
Not ideal. Can I consider falling in love with Will Anderson and still drafting CJ Stroud, then pivoting to still get Will Anderson? Is that a pivot, or is that just, am I reaching too much on that? Because they clearly fell in love with Will Anderson.
I think that's the ultimate pivot, is where you're talking about two guys that you like a lot, and you use your extra equity to go up there and get both of them. I think that's the extremist of all pivots. I don't think it's necessarily possible had it not been for the Watson trade, obviously. So I think that comes into mind, where it can all lead back to the Watson trade and the way in which he handled it. But that was an ultimate pivot, and that was the way that it was going down as they were discussing it. And then they decided, hey, we want to go get both of these guys.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that.
Okay. So that's one of his better pivots then.
All right. Worst pivots. The Nick Cacerio worst pivots.
Well, basically everything they've done with the center position. They remember when they tried to sign the guy from San Francisco in free agency, Brindle, I think was his name. And then they just haven't figured out center since then. And they tried to sign a guy that knew the offense and had played in San Fran. And I guess D'Amico Ryans was familiar with him. And then the 49ers kept him. And so everything they've done with the center position has been bad pivots. Whatever the hell he did with the Kenyon Green selection, if you're right and they were trying to get Jameson Williams and that got, sniped away from him, the pivots after that, trade back, don't get Kenyon Green, don't get the Jordan Davis, and then trade up to get John Mechie because you didn't get the wide receiver. You maybe one of the, like that wasn't even a pivot. That was just traveling. That was not pivot. That was traveling. He picked up his pivot foot and put it back down 5 times, and the official hit him with the whistle. That was everything associated with Kenyon Green was terrible.
Well, I think you got to put the Diggs in there too, just based on what went down. I mean, originally you tried to trade for Keenan Allen. You didn't want to give up, according to the reports, 3rd round pick next year. So you go get Stephon Diggs for whatever you got him for. You rip up a contract that he pretty much ended up signing the same version of after you didn't bring him back. You didn't get the comp pick as a result, and you pushed the money back and basically put a bag of popcorn on a credit card and just kind of pushed it back. So I would say we got to put the Stephon Diggs just based on the result and the fact that there was an original plan with Keenan Allen.
Yeah, that was definitely on my list. And I just have been annoyed with how the whole Kenyon Green situation was annoying. And then the way they've operated at center because they couldn't sign that one free agent has been mind numbing. They haven't put anything together at that position in the past 2 seasons. So I'm trying to think I think that's kind of it for my worst pivots. Those were the 3 that kind of jumped to mind. Am I missing a really bad pivot?
No. I mean, he's handled the pivots okay.
I would also say another good one was Joe Mixon. Tried to get Saquon, didn't get him, got Joe Mixon for next to nothing in a trade.
The Mixon one was good. That wasn't the original plan. Obviously, Saquon, you put that one up there. I would say an early one, they kind of freaked out with the Josh McCown and ended up hiring Lovey for a season, which kind of saved them from a lot of scrutiny, I would say. Although the Lovey era wasn't like the most amazing thing in the world. So I would say those are the pivots. I would say you question that.
Yeah.
Or I would say you question the right ones.
Okay, good.
So
Good.
there we go. So
sure, if we're missing one, somebody will let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the chat. Texans will be on the field manana, and we look forward to providing you with the reaction and all that as it goes down. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. Check if your refrigerator is running, and if it is, well, then you better go catch it. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.